I'm going to start, okay, with generalities. The first generality is the most important thing. The most important thing is you should know your job as a parent is to ensure that your children live lives that will enable them to be Zocher for Olam Haba. That's really what it's all about. Right? That's what Jewish parenting is supposed to be geared to. You want to make sure that your children grow up to be the kind of people who are good, tzaddikim, b'nai Torah. So, in order to ensure that, I suggest that Hashem's name should be mentioned in the house a lot. You should talk about Hashem to your children. You have to talk about Hashem, okay? uh, not just halachas and not just divrei Torah, but Hashem. He's a reality. You know, Hashem Elokim Emes means that the Rambam says in the first parak of Yesodei Torah, he says Hashem Elokim Emes, Raku Emes. He's the ultimate reality, and so your children should be aware of the fact that Hashem, this loving Avinu Malkeinu, who is our Father and loves us, and He's also Majesty, and we have to do His will. That's what we do. We, the family, we do Hashem's will. That's what we try to do. So when you succeed doing that, and it's something that you should constantly do, I still do it with my children, and um, most of my children are grandparents already. So, and they don't mind when I do it, when I say it. You know, the next pointer that I wrote down was that you have to make them feel loved. You have to, as a parent, if we're talking about Chinuch Banim, the first thing is you have to make your children feel loved. Okay, that means you have to love them, but you also have to succeed in getting them to know that you love them. So one of the ways to do it is to say, I love you. Let them hear it from you. They may be a little, for some people, it's embarrassing. You know, I get phone calls sometimes from some relatives of mine. Okay. Yeah, even my wife's twin sister calls up, and when she leaves, when she gets off the phone, she says, "Love you." I said, "You forgot a word. One of the most important words is I." It's so hard for people to say, "I love you." I don't know why. Maybe for men it's even harder than for women. But women also don't necessarily. Your child has to hear, "I love you." You know, why do I love you? Because you're mine. That's all. There's no special reason. Not because you're good. Not because you're whatever. Not because you got a high score in your in your math test. No, I love you because you're mine, and you have to be real in order to be able to love your child so that it's real. You have to find things about your child that are lovable, that are lovable, and so I have my list of 100 or so positive traits that if you need, you to look for as my child this and this and this. If I find enough things, you'll see that's what you focus on. You want to love somebody, focus on their positive traits. Don't focus on their negative things. Parents very often fall into the trap that they want their children to be perfect, and when they're not, so they see all the flaws, all the things that need to be corrected. Okay, that's not the first thing you should look at. The first thing you should look at is all their positive things. They should feel that you know that they're good and they want to do good things, and sometimes they mess it up, but they know that you appreciate them. They're people, and they are sensitive. And when you say that, I say it all the time. I I once walked in. My oldest son is a Rosh Yeshiva in Kiryat Sefer, where I live. So once a group of guys from Derek were coming to my house for a Thursday night meal, and they didn't know where I lived. So they got off the bus and they were asking people where Rav Lazerus lives. So of course they got directed to my son's house because he's Rav Lazarus. Who am I? I'm Rav Lazarus's father. It's a different thing. I went into his house, Motzi Shabbos once. He was giving a shmooze to his shir, so one of his shir Gimel, and and how could my phone ring? Oh, it is. Um, and I didn't want to disturb him. I went into the kitchen. I saw my children, my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren, and I so I was getting ready to leave. As I left, I went over to my son and I told him, sorry that, that I'm intruding. I said, but I just wanted to tell you I love you. My son's in his 50s. So I said to him, maybe I embarrassed you because I said it loud enough that his Talmidim could hear. He's Rosh Yeshiva in a high school aged yeshiva. And he said, no, Abba, I love when you say it. And I love you too. You never get too old for it. You have to practice it. It's such an important thing. I can't tell you. Every one of my grandchildren knows that when Zadie calls them over, he's going to whisper in their ear, I love, you know what? Yeah, you love me. Right? That's such an important thing. I can't tell you. I can't stress it enough. And you also have to be demonstrative. That means you have to give them a kiss and a hug, a warm, even even a little baby, a 4-month-old baby. It's very important for father to hold his baby and give hugs to his little children and kisses. It's very important that you do that because it has an effect on them. When they know that your father loves you, it's a tremendous thing. Um, Discipline. Now, discipline is a critical thing in Chinuch Banim. You have to be able to discipline your children. They have to listen to you. Okay? You have to make sure that they listen to you because if they don't, when they're little, then when they get older, they won't listen to you either. So you have to make sure that they listen to you. Okay? And you could do that, first of all, if you love them, it makes it much easier for them to listen to you. Okay? And if you are fair, they'll also listen to you. Okay? And sometimes I get to a point where I know some of my children, I have to ask them for advice because I'm in a different generation already, So not that my 75th year is such a traumatic thing, but I don't believe it. Especially when I look now, I see myself there. I don't look like I'm that old. But my kids very often know things more about the current world than I do. And I have to be miyatz with them because I respect them. I always respected my children. And you have to do that. You have to respect your children. Okay? Just like a child has to respect his parent, a parent has to respect his child to the point that he speaks nicely to him and that he always, it doesn't mean that you have to stand up when your child comes in the room. There are certain things that a child has to show respect to his parent that parent doesn't have to do to a child, but you have to respect them as a human being, as a person, as a Jew. Okay, so therefore you have to look. eh, If you need the list, I'll be happy to email it to you. It's a list of 100 positive traits. It just helps you focus on, oh, he's this, he's that, he's that. He's that. Okay. If you have the list, very good. I hope you didn't throw it away. I usually give it out when I'm Masada Kedusha now. Your children are not your friends. They're your children. You're a parent. You're not a friend. Okay? And as such, the Torah says, Ish imo va'aviv tira'u. A, a, a person has to fear his mother and his father. He has to treat them. That doesn't mean he has to fear them because he's afraid they're going to give him a patch. He has to be awestruck. He has to realize that like I was always makpid about one thing in my house. I'm not saying that you should do this, but I chose to do this. I didn't let any of my children sit in my chair. They could not sit even al hayom hazeh. Okay, my as I said, most of my grandchildren are grandparents already. They would not dare, any of them, neither they nor their spouses, would sit in Abba's chair. It created a certain awe that they have, even though I'm really in awe of them, because I think the truth is I had siyata dishmaya, and I believe that all my children, every single one of them, is better than me. But they still have awe. Maybe they think I'm something. I don't know. But that's such an important thing that your child should look at you that way, because as they get older and they hear other things and they're exposed to so many different things in life, they may just say, oh, my parents, what do they know? Old fogies, they don't know what's going on, they don't even have a smartphone, you know, uh, make sure that from the time that they're little, they listen to you. You have to insist upon the fact they listen to you. And if they don't listen to you, you have to find a way to instruct them or punish them that they will listen to you. Okay? How does that? Well, you have to figure out. I'm not going to get to the point of punishment too much today, but you have to be able to make sure that you know how to discipline them, which is a subject in its own right. you you must be consistent and set a good example. You have to be consistent and set a a good example, meaning fathers, your children should see you learning at home. You should learn at home, even if you're learning full time, but you learn at home as well. And if you're kovei itim the Torah, if you fix time to learn Torah, and you don't have at least 2 hours to learn, don't learn Gemara. I know I'm being taped, but I'm telling you, don't learn Gemara. There are other things in Torah. There's Chumash, there's Tanakh, there's Halacha, there's Hashkafa. There's all kinds of different things that you could learn. You could learn Rambam. You have time. Make sure that when you're learning things, you're 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 progressing. You're learning something. If you have only half an hour to learn Gemara, it's very hard unless you have time to review. So if you take my advice, do Mishnayos instead of Gemara. You could go through Shas Mishnayos with Bartanura, and you will know the entire Shas. Bartanura knew the entire Shas, and he wrote it in his commentary. So let your children see you learning. It doesn't make a difference what you're learning. It could be Chumash. It could be anything. If you know how to learn Gemara, okay, very nice. That's it's a very choshev thing to do. Mothers, Mothers should be examples of chesed, sympathy, empathy, tznius, and you should be davening. Mothers, you should be davening for your children. Every day, say something about Hashem giving you siyata dishmaya, that your children turn out to be good people. One other thing, mothers, I know this may sound strange. There are mothers out there. Some of your wives, um, know how to learn somewhat, or more, and it's very important that you be able to do that, so that when your daughter comes home from school, you can help her with the Chumash and the Rashi and the Tanakh, or whatever it is that she's learning. When I taught in the Vay several years ago, so I had a program called Lapid, not related at all to Tommy Lapid or Yair Lapid, and it was a program. There were about 35 girls in the program, and it was the second year program in the Vay, and they said, "You girls, this is probably the last time you're going to have a chance to be in seminary before you get married. So I want to help prepare you for marriage." So besides teaching Derech Hashem to them, I taught them Chumash, how to learn Chumash, so that when your daughter comes home from school and she's in second grade and third grade, and she says to you, "Ima, Mommy, I have homework. Could you help me?" It happens to be in Chumash, so you'll be able to do it. So I know it's not an easy thing to do, but uh, it's worthwhile doing it. Even if you learn the Chumash in English, Rashi in English, there are Chumashim with Rashi in English as well, and you have to be familiar with it, okay? Because part of the respect that a child will have for his parents is the fact that they know more than he does. So if your mommy knows more than you, so you feel good about asking your mommy something. And when you ask mommy for things, you begin doing that, then, excuse me, then you will ask mommy for all kinds of things. Like, who should I play with this? Is this friend a good friend of mine? Well, I don't know. Now, even if they don't ask, you should be very careful, especially mothers with young children. You should be careful who your children play with. I recommend, as my wife did, invite your your child's friends to the house so you can see them. So you can see whether you'll be feel it. One of my daughters was once invited the Malka Takita, the queen of the class, to her house. She was so honored by the fact that this girl came to the class, came to her house. And then my wife was overhearing some of the conversation, and the girl said something, "Oh, my mother is, like she's stupid," or something like that. So after the girl left, my wife said to her, "I overheard her say this thing about her mother. What do you think about it? Do you think that she should be a friend for you?" My daughter was a little bit, taken back. After all, she held this girl in awe, and then she said no. So my wife told her, "Look, I'm not telling you to break off a connection with her, but try to find other friends also. You have to be cordial to her. You have to be nice to her." Um, okay. um, I don't know how long I'm supposed to be. I don't know if Rabbi Altman or Rabbi.
We have plenty of time till wherever the Rav wants to go, as long as the Rav wants to go. We're
Okay.
thinking about.
Okay. Now, I don't have that many points already. Um, Now, children have to use a word The children have to know a word, that there's a word that many parents are afraid to use, especially in today's world, permissive world, um, and they should be used. And that word is no. A child has to learn that there's a word no. No matter what, you want it? No, you can't have it. Sorry. No. You can say it all nice. We'll get it a different time. You can, but the answer is, the bottom line is no. The answer is no. I have the right to say no. Um, which very often is followed by tantrums. So, how do you deal with tantrums? So, uh, the best way is to ignore them. Okay, uh, you can walk out of the room. Why does it? Why is a child having a tantrum? Because I have to understand that children would like to do what they want, just like all of us. But they don't have the power to force you to agree with them. And when you don't agree, especially if you use the word no, and they don't want to accept that, so they're going to bother you to the point where you know you have a tantrum. It's like the little children that know that when their mother's on the phone, that's when you go and you pull a skirt and you tell her, I want the ice cream now, and the mother says later, no, I want it now, you know. So you have to know how to deal with these things because they happen all the time. It's a natural thing. Um, I found a way that I found it to be very effective, even though not everybody agrees with me for sure on this one. I, I do it with my grandchildren. I never did it with my children because I didn't think of the idea. But I thought of it when I saw my grandchildren having uh, a temper tantrum. And what I did was took a chair, I sat right in front of them, and I said, "You cry so nicely. I really like to hear the way you cry. Wow, that's great." And then they get a little scream even louder. And I said, "Oh, that's really good." And the kid is thinking, it doesn't bother him? That's terrible. I'm doing this because I know it's going to bother you. I'm going to try again. Yeah. Usually what happens is they stop when they see that it doesn't bother you, so they stop. So either walking out of the room, or you could try this one. I don't know if it doesn't always work. You know, some children are very, very persistent, and they can have a temper tantrum for quite a long time. In which case, you have to take your 9 millimeter pistol out of the drawer and well, I wouldn't say use it because I'm being taped, but I'm joking. Okay, but there should be some kind of punishment. Child has to know. They will they will often have a tantrum when their mother takes them shopping, and the mother can't stop them. Until you give me what I want, I'm gonna. It's very embarrassing, and uh, you have to just try to ignore it and say, when we get home, I'll deal with you. You know, and then they should get a punishment. What kind of punishment should they get? It depends on their age. A punishment that The idea of a punishment is to do something that bothers them. They're not happy about it. So it doesn't have to be anything, you know, extremely painful, but it could be something. You can't get today. I'm giving out prizes to all the children, and you're not going to get it because of your tantrum. And if you keep having tantrums, you're not going to get them. Usually, withholding a positive thing is much better than a negative type of punishment. But sometimes you could use a negative type of punishment too. I know that there are a lot of people who disagree with me on this. And certainly a lot of modern psychologists, right? But I believe in corporal punishment for children until the age of 5. You can give a little kid a potch. You can't give big children potches. Maybe 6. Okay. In America, they're even more immature. So I would say 7. Except in America, they may hire a lawyer and take you press charges against you. But in general, I believe that you should be able to give a patch to your children. How to do it? Okay, you have to know how to do it. The first rule is you cannot be angry when you do it because the child will perceive that as you're hitting me because I am bothering you. That's why you're doing this. So you can't do it when you're angry. You have to wait until you calm down. When you feel calm, in the Sefer Levi Eliyahu, um, Rav Eliyahu Lopian writes that one of his sons once did something that he felt was terrible. He was a big boy, and he thought he should know better, and it really made him upset. He had to wait. He waited 3 days until he calmed down. He felt when he thought about it, it didn't bother him anymore. Then he went over to his son and slapped him in the face. Now, I don't agree with slapping in the face, but I'm not going to argue with a guddle. Nevertheless, I believe that if a person is going to hit a child, he should only do it on his hand. Have him hold out the hand and hit him on the hand. Okay? Generally, that's enough. You have to tell the child the name of the game is I win. So therefore, you have to cry. If I hit you on the hand, I'm not going to hit you hard, but if I hit you on the hand, you have to cry. If you don't cry, so then I'm going to hit you harder. And if you don't cry, I'll hit you harder until you cry. That works. I'm telling you, it works. Okay? And then they learn that they have to listen to you. And they have a certain awe and fear of the parent, which is very important because then they will they'll respect your word and they will respect you because they know that that's what they're supposed to be doing. Um, don't be critical. Okay? Don't be critical. Try to find positive things about your children, and when you have to correct them. So don't correct them in a condescending, critical way. Explain to them what they should be doing and what you expected them to do in such a situation because of the fact that they are people and they are sensitive. And if you criticize them and embarrass them, so they they're hurt, and that's not good. You're not allowed to hurt another Jew, even if it happens to be your child. But when you have to give a criticism, you should try to give a criticism in a constructive way and say, this is what you should be doing, not this is what you did, okay, without being accusing. They'll get the message. They'll get the message. Condemn bad acts, not bad children. Children are not generally bad. I can't say that there aren't some bad children. There are. But basically, most children do things, when they do something bad, it's not because they're bad. They did a bad act. And you have to let them know, you have to address the act and not make him, don't ever say to a child, you're bad. Um, in my opinion, my somewhat humble opinion, there are two things that are not acceptable: stealing and lying. If your children steal, even if they steal from you, or they lie, they have to know that that deserves a capital punishment. Now, I don't mean capital punishment like the electric chair. They have to they have to realize that you're going to be very upset with them. This is something you can't do. You're not going to let this one pass by. You know? Because these flaws of stealing and lying can lead to serious character flaws as they get older. And as they get older, when they have bad character, it gets harder and harder to change. And if you don't do it when they're young, so then you're going to really have a real job of trying to do it when they get older. And if they don't listen to you when they get older, by the time they're 16, 17, and 18 years old, they're just going to not be curious you. They're not going to even listen to what you have to say. So therefore, you have to make sure that these things don't exist. And it's very important to let them know that the consequence of owning up is much less painful than the consequence of denying something when you were wrong. So it's good to encourage them. Tell me the truth, okay? So they did something. They lied. They stole. Why'd you do it? Okay. They have to understand that there is a consequence, which is they have to be punished. They must be punished for it. But as they get older, as I said, punishment itself, discipline is a field by itself. You could ask them, what do you think is an appropriate punishment for what you did? You realize you did something wrong. First, you have to get them to admit they did something wrong. What do you believe is an appropriate punishment? You know. So the kids said once my kid, one of my children, I said to him, come up with a punishment for what you did. Uh, I won't have friends. I won't go outside and have friends for a week. I said, that's not a punishment for you. That's a punishment for your mother. I said, 2 days. Okay, you can't play with friends for 2 days. We agreed on that. We negotiated. He came up with his idea. I'm fine. I said, good. But they knew that they were being punished, and they felt it was justified. So, and they came up with the idea. So I was just, I was Mako. Um, I don't have so much more that I wrote down here except something very important. Um, if you ever accuse your child of doing something and you're wrong, which probably all of us do at some point or other, that we assume that this child is really, did something, and we confront them and say, why did you do this? Which is not, of course, the way to do it, but we're human beings. Parents are also human beings also, and you don't have to be a perfect parent. Okay, there's no such thing. But if you do that, and you do say you accuse your child of doing something, you started and you did this, and in the end you find out it wasn't true. They didn't really start. They're innocent. So you have to understand they feel very hurt. And when you hurt a person, no matter who it is, you have to apologize, especially to children. So my daughter once told me when she was going on shidduchim. So she told her friend, she was talking to her friend about the shidduch, and she said that the bacher asked her if her father apologizes to her, apologizes to them if he does something like he jumps to them. So she said, yes, my father does. He apologizes. So her friend said, my father would never apologize. Uh, he's my father. He would never apologize. I have too much respect for my father to expect him to apologize. So my daughter said to her, she said, I'm sure that I have more respect for my father than you have for yours. The fact that my father does apologize, I have more respect for him than you have for yours. You're afraid of your father. Okay. Anyway, um, the Chinuch went. They got married. That was a very good question that he asked. They're now married 30 years, and they're grandparents and happily married, Baruch Hashem. And I'm prepared to take questions that I didn't prepare. As far as I got, that's my list. I quickly jotted down this afternoon.
Questions would be wonderful if whoever wants to stay can stay, and if whoever wants to, needs to leave, that's also fine. But we would certainly appreciate if people could ask questions. That'd be fantastic.
It
Just
was a
unmute
pleasure.
yourself.
I didn't see every face, but I saw names, and I'm really thrilled to see you. It's like I can't say that everybody's was on my mind all the time, but when I see you, I see the names and I see who you are, and I can't tell you. It's like seeing my children, you know. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, Ruben.
I have a question, if I can
Yes,
ask.
Ruben. I saw it
Hello?
says on here Ruven Glucksman raised hand.
All right, thank you,
No,
Rabbi.
not Ruven Glucksman. There's Ruven.
Hi, Rabbi.
Hi.
It's really nice, by the way. It's really good to see Rabbi and hear Rabbi and see all the Derek family.
By the way, I'm very proud of you. It's such an
Thank you. You got a lot of help.
Baruch Hashem.
So I've thank God, 4 kids. They're all extremely different. One of them just needs reminders and he'll daven and learn and everything. But one does not like to do things. Does not like to daven.
How old is he?
8. She's 7 years old. Doesn't like to wash her hands in the morning. Doesn't like to daven. I've becomes a struggle. I don't like to fight because I know, a lot of times Bali Tshuva tend to push their kids. So I don't really push. I try and do prizes or things like that, but I just feel this attitude, and I know it's not going to go away. There's anger there. There's just in general, since an infant. So I don't, maybe have some advice how to motivate.
My general advice is this. I mean, without knowing the child, my general advice is this: that you have to forget about forcing him to do any of those things, for davening, washing his hands, or whatever else that it bothers him. But you should talk to him about, does he believe in Hashem? You have to make sure that your children believe in Hashem, because then he'll come, as he gets older, he'll come to the realization that what he's doing, he's not doing it for him, he's not doing it for you, he's doing it because that's what he's supposed to do, because he believes that Hashem wants him to do it. That's why I started off by saying you have to try to make sure your children, you're preparing them for Olam Haba. That's what you do, right? A 7-year-old who doesn't want to do those things, it's okay. It's okay. Hashem doesn't, he's not chayiv yet, You're chayiv in Chinuch, but give him a nice time. Show him that you love him. Don't criticize him for not doing it. Take him out. Go somewhere with him. Spend time with him alone, and spend some of the time just talking about the fact the way you look at life. Your avodas Hashem. Your Yiras Shamayim. How important it is to you. Don't say you have to do that also, but it's me. And without criticizing him, without saying, just say, come on, let's have a nice time. Take you out, buy ice cream with him, buy some pizza. That's the best way to get him to not feel rebellious. If he doesn't have anything to rebel against, then he's calm. But if he feels that he's being forced to do something that he doesn't want to do, and you could eventually get to the point of, why we do this. This is the reason why we wash our hands. This is the reason why we daven. Hashem wants to hear your tefillahs. You have an opportunity to speak to the Melech Malchei Amlochim, who all the Malachim and Shemayim. When you start talking, Hashem says, shh. Ruvain's talking to me now. Chaim is talking to me now. I don't need your praise. So even if you do that once in a while, you tell him you could do this once in a while, even if you don't do it every day, you know, try it. You'll see you'll like it. And then he won't feel the resistance that he's being forced to do something. Because if a child feels like he's forced to do something that he doesn't understand and he doesn't want to do because it's a hassle, so then he won't want to do it. I feel that one of the most compelling arguments, proofs of the truth of Torah is the fact that at Har Sinai, we heard Hashem speaking. We heard Hashem speaking. The Rambam says, what was the Ma'amad Har Sinai for? It was only to endorse Moshe Rabbeinu as a prophet so that millions of people could hear Hashem speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. In the next generation, the kids who weren't there, imagine, father comes and says to his son, you're 13 years old now. Here are these things, these black boxes and straps, and you have to put them on your arm every day and your head. The kid looks at his father and says, what? Every day? What a hassle. Why? So his father tells him, listen, I was at Har Sinai, and I heard God speaking, and he basically told us we heard him speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was endorsed by Hashem in public. Well, the normal kid is not going to, whoa, come on, Abba, But he respects his father. His father's been good to him. He doesn't think his father's a liar, but he knows that there's such a thing as, wine at least. He may not know about LSD, but he knows about wine. And he knows that maybe his father was at some party and wild party, and he imagined this, until he sees his friend come over, who's also 13, and tells him the same story. My father just gave me these things. And they both don't want to do it because nobody wants to do something that you never do. Because he says to his father, but Grandpa didn't do this. He didn't have to do this. Why do I have to do it? So then he tells him, well, because I was at Har Sinai and Grandpa wasn't. And I heard this. Well, two fathers are saying it. Each kid, they sit down together and they come up with the conclusion. They both must have been at the same party. That's all. And they got drunk together and they imagined this thing. And if there would have been anyone, if it didn't really happen, if there wasn't really Ma'amad Har Sinai, if Hashem didn't really appear to them and didn't endorse Moshe Rabbeinu, then a lot of people in that generation would have said, what are you doing this to these kids for? It didn't happen. But it did. It did happen. And the whole generation accepted it because my father said so. So you are part of that change. And your son, Mirz Hashem, is also going to be part of that chain. He's already a part of that chain. You're a link. Going all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu, all the way back, all our ancestors, even if some of our ancestors weren't Shomer mitzvahs, but we have that Masorah. And the first generation, if it didn't really happen, there wouldn't be any Torah today. Who said no? Nobody likes to be told to do something that why? Why should I do it? Okay, there has to be a compelling reason. And that's the compelling reason. My father told me, and my father's, and his father, the whole generation, everybody's father said the same thing. So when you get to a point where you have, your son understands that you love him and that you respect him, even if he doesn't wash, even if he doesn't daven, you respect him because you have to find the good things about him. You look at the list of positive traits. You can make your own list up. I just went to a dictionary and I, looked up positive. I just went through the dictionary and I wrote down positive traits. Find good things about him so that you can really feel that you respect him, that he's a good boy, even though he doesn't do these things. And even though maybe he seems to be rebelling, but there's a lot there for you, your wife, to see and compliment him and say, as I said in the beginning, make sure that you say a lot of times, I love you. He won't get bored by it. He won't tell you, Abba, stop. Enough. Especially if it's Dvarim Yotzim min halev, Nichnasim el halev.
I think there's a question from Danny Ziegel.
Shalom,
Yes,
Rabbi.
Danny.
It's wonderful to hear from Rabbi.
Right.
Rabbi mentioned lying, and I was wondering if Rabbi does Rabbi distinguish between different types of lies? Is there a difference between saying something that's not true, trying to deceive? Lamashal, sometimes one thing we struggle with my daughter is she has accidents. So sometimes we ask her, did you have an accident? She'll say no. I don't know if she's saying it out of embarrassment or she just doesn't want us to go and bathe her. Or, I don't know exactly
There are
what she's...
lies that you have to look away. You have to just ignore them. That kind of lie is, she didn't do anything wrong. I mean lying when somebody does something, a child does something wrong and they deny it. They say, I didn't do it, right? But something like that, that's okay. So a child's embarrassed. That you understand that, you don't have to make an issue over something like that. But if a child steals, he goes into your wife's pocketbook and steals money, okay, that's a punishable act, okay? And a lie is, did you go to Cheder today? And he says yes, and he didn't. He stayed out with his friends, and that. That's a lie. You have to be pretty sure when you punish somebody for a lie or for stealing that they really did it, right? And if you apologize, you have to apologize sincerely. You can't just say, I'm sorry. You have to understand the child is hurt, and you have to, when I apologize to my children, I always ask them, do you forgive me? And almost always they said, yes, Abba, of course, Abba. And I said, no. Do you really forgive me? I'm really sorry. I realize that I hurt you by doing that. Do you forgive me? People think, like my daughter's friend, that for a father to do that, it's like he's taking away from his honor. But unlike what this young lady thought, this girl thought, my daughter understood that that's something that's good, something to learn for, something to respect. Not easy. Okay?
Thank you, Rabbi.
No.
If it's okay, maybe we'll just have a few more questions. Herschel, I see has a question. YY has a question. I see Alana has a question.
Yeah, YY's face came on before, so I want can I ask, get YY.
Yeah. So my question is about, I guess, discussing difficult or difficult type topics with kids. So let's say, like, for example, we have Corona going around the world now, or living in Eretz Yisrael. Sometimes there's difficult things like intifadas and stuff. When you have difficult topics like that, are these types of things that like you wouldn't really discuss with kids at all? Or if you do discuss, how do you kind of discuss kind of things that maybe scare you yourself or you find difficult?
If it's something that could possibly be a danger to a child, like Corona, and they have to be careful, whatever it is, wearing a mask or whatever it is. So then, of course, you have to discuss it, and you have to tell them that it's not, you could get sick, and you can tell them it could be serious. People, people die with this. I had 3 months ago, I had an angioplasty. Doctor said I was in the hospital, and one of my major arteries in the heart was 99% closed. I didn't know it. I just knew that I had some chest pain. So I went to it was a mild chest pain. I went into the emergency room, and they did whatever they did. They did an EKG, and everything was fine except I still had this pain. So they decided to put me in the cardiac ward, and it was on Thursday. And Friday, they don't really do angioplasties because there are no doctors, experienced doctors there until Sunday. They're off for the weekend. And I didn't want some Arab doctor experimenting on me. So I decided, so I'll wait. I said, okay, I'll wait till Sunday. On Shabbos, my wife, I said, you don't have to stay in the hospital with me. I'm okay. I'm a big boy. Um, and so she went to my daughter. My daughter has 12 children, and some married and grandchildren. And they were all in the house together. They were all not feeling well. Apparently, they came down with corona, all of them, almost the whole family, and so did my wife. I came home on Monday after the procedure, to which the doctor said to me, if you didn't get here yesterday, if you didn't get here today, he said, as he was doing it, you probably wouldn't be here tomorrow. So I said, wow, what a nice that I came then. I came home. My wife wasn't feeling well. She got tested positive. So I said, I better get tested. So I tested negative. She went to one of these hotels that they have for Corona hotels in Israel. And I stayed home for the next two Shabbosos. I was home alone. My children would bring me meals. And then they called me from the Kupat Holim and they said to me, we want to come and test you. So they came to my house, with all the uniform and everything, and I tested positive. So they sent me also to this. The army sent an ambulance to take me there. Um, it's serious. Baruch Hashem, I didn't have any serious thing, but when I went to see my cardiologist 2 weeks ago, and I told him that I also had corona. He said, you had corona after that procedure. You were supposed to be in bed for resting for a week. And he said, and you didn't have to go to the hospital? I said, no. He said, Hashem loves you. I said, hope so, because I love him. Yes, you have to tell them that. You have to tell them about these kind of things. If a child is in a situation where he's in danger, you have to tell them that this is not a good thing. And therefore, you want to make sure that you protect them. Your job is to protect them. But if it's something that's not at all remotely dangerous to them, then why bring it up and scare them? I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah? Okay.
I think Herschel has a question. That's okay.
Thank you. Kodem Kol Rubiakov, thank you so much for your facilitating this. And hello, cutie there on your lap. Rabbi, thank you so much for making yourself available and sharing your chachma with all of us. We love you. And on behalf of Ariel and myself, I think our question is this. Maybe it's a two-part question. Our eldest is a senior in high school, and she is getting ready to contemplate seminaries in Eretz Hashem and Eretz Israel next year. Please God, the matzav should be calm, and that would work. So our question is, what is, as children leave the house, what is the taste you want to leave in their mouths? What is that messaging as they're on the cusp of adulthood? That's part one. And part two is, of all of the many valuable experiences and inputs to have in seminary, what's the Yehareg V'al Yavor that you want to really ensure that your daughter would have? Thank you, Rabbi.
You want to make sure that your daughter has Yiras Shamayim. And that comes from the both of you. That what you learned, I always held that good midos and Yiras Shamayim come from the home, not from the yeshiva. It comes from the home. In fact, I remember saying to your mother, Herschel, that I wish I could take credit for your good midos. And we can't. She did a good job. So and that's what you have to know, that your daughter has good midos. She has to know that you're always there for her, even though she'll be far away, that you'll be available to talk to advise, to share her whatever she's doing, her TUM and her classes and whatever it is that you're interested while she's there. Okay, you have to try to make sure that you pick a seminary that where the teachers are Yerei Shemayim, because otherwise don't come to Eretz Yisrael.
Right. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
The scary follow-up is if there are seminaries that are yesh v'yesh, what a upsetting and scary thought to contemplate. But we can talk offline.
If you made sure that you feel your daughter has Yerei Shemayim, then and she is discerning, she could tell the difference between someone who does and someone who doesn't, and she can stand on her own 2 feet, and you're okay. You're okay. You still try to make sure that she's going to be in an environment where people share those values that you have and that you want for her. Otherwise, as I said, don't send her here. So, keep her close by where you can, make sure that she's safe. There is nothing like Eretz Yisrael. The truth of the matter is there's no Tara like you could find here, but that's only if you find Tara. So you have to research diligently to make sure that you get find a seminary where they are responsible and they're Yerei Shemayim and they really care about the girls and their ruchnias. Okay? Did I answer your question?
For sure. Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay.
Do we have time for another question?
Yeah. Me?
Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't go to yeshiva this afternoon, so I'm okay.
We very much appreciate the time. There's no words for the. I know Yosef Kalikowski also had a question, if that's okay.
Yes.
Yitzchak, Joseph's my English name. Sorry, I have it for my professional things here. I really just wanted to initially just say thank you and hello. Shlomi, you want to come over and say hello to Rashiva for quickly? My son's right here.
Very nice.
Just want to say hi. A bunch of my other kids are here.
Hi, what's his name?
Shloima, come here.
Shlomi.
You want it? He asked, what's your name? Shlomo Yol.
Shlomo Yoel. Very nice. That's a nice name. Great people.
So my
Are you a good boy?
What?
Are you a good boy?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy. Okay.
I didn't really want to ask anything. I didn't want to take up too much of Shiva's time, but I had some problems with this boy with Cheder, and I think we just solved it now. And then his next youngest son, Knainar, we have 7 children now. And the next one, Avrami, who's 5 years old. This Shloime, he's 7 years old. So we sent our children to very Haredish schools, and Baruch Hashem, our girls are very matzliach, and the 2 boys are in school already. Have all had some difficulty, and the Manal actually just called me while we're here, and his eighth is that my 5-year-old, we live in a rural area where there's no other families around us. We have our shul, we have our Rav here, Kanai Nahari, in his 90s, a Talmud Chacham, a Chashvid, who met the Rosh Hashiva a few years ago, and we So that's why we live here, because to show our cars are to him, and I'm kind of the assistant rabbi in the shul, and it's also for my other parnasa is an hour from here in a different direction in Pennsylvania, and my other children, they
So
go
what's the
either a
question?
half hour away or
What's
an
the
hour
question
away
about your
in the
5-year-old,
opposite
Avrami?
direction. This is like kind of right in between for everything between Chinuch and Parnasa. And the
What?
answer that the Manal gave for our 5-year-old is to, it, so the answer that the Manal gave there is to send him away to live with to live with someone else, and not, and so he can be around other children. Does that make sense?
I don't know. I don't know who the
Otherwise, he's
child
not.
is. I would
He
say
hasn't
if a
been
social worker
behaving
didn't
in
say that,
Cater,
uh,
and they think it's
does
because he
he
doesn't feel
have?
like he's part
Does
of
he have
the
any emotional?
community, because we don't live there. And does that make sense to send a 5-year-old? Yeah.
Thank you, Mikey, for saying so.
Yeah, he's I don't know,
Does
but
he? Do you
emotional.
feel he has emotional
He's
issues?
difficult. Yeah. I'll just rather ask the Shiva for a bracha. Not
Okay, you
emotional, just more
certainly have a
behavioral.
bracha that
I wouldn't.
your children should all be Yirei Shemayim, and they should go in the derech so that they will live lives that will get, like I said at the beginning of the shir, that they live lives that will earn them a place in Olam Haba. If your son Avrami you feel he has any emotional problems, then it's important to take care of them now when he's only 5 years old, and not necessarily send him away to a foreign, to a different family. He needs his parents.
Yeah.
So rather than get rid of the problem, get rid of the kid, deal with the problem, and make sure that he gets the kind of professional treatment that he needs. Okay, and you should be zocher that all your children should become Yirei Shemayim and Talmid Chachamim. All your daughters should be noshim of tznius and valor, and they should all give nachas to the Ribono Shel Olam.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.
If it's possible, there's one, Josh Ventura, I'm not sure he's still there. He wanted to ask a question, if that's okay. If Josh is there,
Yes.
Josh.
Me, Josh?
Josh Ventura.
Hey, Josh. Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Rabbi? I mean, I had a question too, but Josh can go ahead. The other Josh.
That's fine. I think he's
Yeah.
not there right now, so you guess Josh Fox will ask the question.
Okay,
Yeah.
Josh.
Josh.
Okay. Hi, Rav. How's the Rav doing?
Yeah, same way that I was when you asked it the
Right.
first time.
Sorry. Yeah, it's just. Well, again, thank you so much for giving us your time. The question that I was wondering about was, you sort of need to choose sometimes what things to focus on regarding chinuch and what things, when you're trying to influence your children to do certain things. So what, like the question I wrote on the chat was like, let's say something that's not necessarily a mitzvah, like sort of more like derech eretz, or if that's what it is. Like, let's say, like the example I gave was like chewing with your mouth open at the table. Let's say, is that something that you should ignore and focus more on, like getting your child to, let's say, bench, or
Yes,
or is
obviously, benching is a
right,
mitzvah, and chewing with
right.
the mouth open is derech eretz. Okay, so hopefully, how old is the child?
So Baruch Hashem, I mean, it's not like that's like a thing that bothers me or that I'm focusing on, but it was just an example I gave. But my twin boys are 11, and then I have another boy who's 8. Thank God.
Okay, very good. You should have a lot of nachas from them.
I mean, thank you. So basically, just ignore things like that.
Yeah, don't make issues of something like that. You should be happy with the character. You should be focused on things that have to do with character traits. That they're good, they're sensitive, they're friendly, they're all the good things that people should be doing, that Jews should be doing.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Should have a lot of knockers from them.
I mean, thank you, Rav. And Chen Lamar.
Amen. Thank you. I have
I
knockers
think
from
Jo-
them.
I think Josh Maturov wanted to ask a question, Bez Hashem.
Yeah.
Hi, Rabbi. It's so nice to see you, healthy, strong, and still going at it, giving shirim. I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
to see that.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time as well on giving us your chachma. So my question is as follows. Baruch Hashem, I'm celebrating my daughter's 1-year-old birthday next week.
Mazel tov.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And my concern is not for how she's going to be raised, because I'm sure being in a religious home, she's going to be hopefully, head on her shoulders type
You're
of.
worried about who her chassan's going to be, right?
I'm worried, exactly. I'm worried about who not only her chassan is going to be, but I'm also worried about how the world around her is going to look like in 15 to 18 years from now. Something that I won't be able to even recognize. And I just want to know, with the revolution of the technology, of the behavior of the other children, like how can I make sure that today my daughter will be, and future children will be, with their heads on their shoulders, even when they have all this influence around them, the world where I
Oh,
won't
you
even
should
be
you
recognized.
should try to limit the influence around them as much as possible. Don't give them exposure to internet. Let them hear from you, one, that you love them, and that you have to say I love you. You have to say those words, and you have to say to them that we're here to serve Hashem. I'm also our family. That's what we do. Our family does that, so that when we know that we do this is what we do. So then the influence of the outside world is less. It's less appealing because this is what we do. This is the customs that we keep, and this is the halacha that we do, and we want. Look, your job is to make sure that your daughter,
My daughter, correct.
right, is going to get a chelik in olam haba. You want her to be happy in life. You want her to be satisfied. She has to succeed in certain things. You have to make sure that you are there to support her, and you have to, as she gets older. I mean, she's only 1 year old, right?
Right.
But she should know that her father loves her, and that he hugs her and he kisses her, and that, because that's also a very important thing, to be demonstrative with your children, and as she grows up, you teach her the things that you yourself understand. This is what life is about. This is the way we want to grow up. We want you to have this kind of home. We want you to know that we don't want things that are extraneous coming in the world. Who knows what's going to happen? You're right. I don't know. You know, um, I thought that I would be able to get, at this age, I thought I'd be able to get through without knowing anything about a computer. So I almost did, because I'm still computer illiterate, but at least this I do have one. So you have to, when there's technology, you have to be careful. You have to use your good judgment. Is this what I want my child to be exposed to? Or I don't think that it was good for her to be exposed to these kind of things. And then you have to talk to her. She may have friends that do it. So she's going to come home and, from school one day and say, Daddy, can I do this? My friend. And you say, well, we don't do that. In our family, we don't do that. And you want to know why we don't do it? So you have to have good reasons why you're doing what you're doing. So
Right.
the
Like
way to
she's
do that is keep learning Torah. So that
great answer.
so that you understand the reasons why we're here.
Like she's gonna come home from school one day and say, "How come all of my friends have cell phones and I don't have a cell phone?"
Okay, so you could say, we don't do that because we are afraid of things that are on the phones. The phones, yeah. I'm sure that your friends use the phones for things that that we would not approve of. and that you would not approve of, and you don't want to be influenced by that. So we want to help you become the kind of person that you could become. Such a great, good Jewish girl. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because peer pressure is very, very strong. So give you a bracha that you should have nachas from her, and that she should be successful.
Amen.
And Yamale Hashem kol mishalos libcho letoivo. Hashem
Amen.
should fill all the good things that you want for her.
Amen.
Hashem should give.
Give me a bracha
You know-
to be like you, Rabbi, at your age.
So what?
Give me a bracha to be like you at your age.
Hashem should help you with siyata d'shmaya that you should be better than I am at my age.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I know a lot of people waiting for questions. I appreciate the Rosh Yeshiva's time. It's tremendous. We all appreciate it. There are no words. Also want to say thank you to Herschel Lutz, who really put it all together. He thanked me, but the MS is that he's really put it all together. He's
Yeah,
not here.
thank you, Herschel. Thank you.
Mitch Spellfog is waiting to ask a question, so if Mitch is there, we'd love to.
Hello, Rabbi. How are you?
Hi, Mitch.
By the way, before I ask my question, Rabbi Altman, you took the words out of my mouth. I wanted to thank Reb Herschel. So you took the words out of my mouth, but thank you, Herschel, for all that you do, for all the different programs and all the work you put into the alumni. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Now
We want to thank you. We want to thank you, Mitch, for your input and your support in all ways. Like you're really a derech. Your derech is like you. You're also a derech.
it's part of who I am, for sure.
Right.
One time you said something to me. The way you know that you were successful in derech is when you understand how much it did for you, but you'll never send your kids there. So that's my goal. So my question is, and I'm asking specifically about my 15-year-old son, who my mom got her wish come true. I'm getting a full taste of what my mom had with me, and in the good and in the bad, I guess. So he's very smart. He's very strong-headed, and he knows exactly what he wants at this age. At 15, he knows exactly what he wants. But of course, we all know that men strachen Godlach. But my question with him is that he's a good boy. He learns. He does whatever he has to do. But there's certain things that I don't know if it's just rebellious at the age of 15 or that's how he, very, very clear thinking. He has an issue with wearing a hat at davening or wearing a jacket. He comes to daven. He does what he needs to do. But, he puts on his hat and then takes it off only if I'm not there. Meaning I've walked into shul and he's wearing his hat. But if I walk into shul, he doesn't want to wear his hat. So I think it has to do with me, that he wants to show that he has power over me. Is it something that I push, or is it something that just let him do whatever he wants?
It's a little bit of immaturity.
Yeah.
But if he knows, if he learned Mishnah Berurah, and he saw that when you daven, you're supposed to wear a hat and jacket. But if he don't make an issue of it.
Okay.
Don't even say anything to him about it. Even if he doesn't do it, don't even say anything about it. There are more important things. He should realize that you respect him, and that if he doesn't want to do it, it's not like he's doing an avera.
Right.
If he's doing something wrong, so then you have to speak to him about it. But don't even mention it. So what? So he doesn't wear a hat and jacket when he's davening. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will listen to his tefillahs anyway.
Sure.
If they're sincere tefillahs, you can tell them that. You say, look, the Mishnah Berurah says that you should do that. Not because I'm saying it, but if you don't do it, Hashem is going to listen to your tefillahs. As long as they're sincere, so he's going to listen to you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's a general rule for all the kinds of things that seem to be somewhat rebellious. Most of them, it's not kedai to make an issue over.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Nice seeing you.
You too.
Ilan Resnick has been waiting very patiently for a question.
Ilan, Ilan's calling me all the time. Where is Ilan?
I'm right here, Rabbi.
Hi, Ilan. How you doing?
Oh man, Baruch Hashem, doing absolutely fantastic, and even better now that I've seen you, Rebbe. It's been far too long.
Yeah,
It's
you're
been
right.
far too long.
I miss
Um,
you too.
Thank you very, very much for all the things that you've done for me personally, and for all the things that you've done for everybody else here and beyond. All the work that you have done. Thank you very, very, very much. Um, I wanted to ask a question in regards to the roles of what siblings should have, because I mean, I'm not married yet, but Bezrat Hashem, I should start shidduchim in about a year or two, something like that. But I just want to know like what is to be expected of like what do I teach uh my future children how they should act with one another, and maybe as well so I can also use these teachings for my own family, like with my sister and my brother. What exactly should we be thinking about how siblings should act with one another?
Civilly. They should be civil to each other. They should treat each other with respect, even if you don't agree, even if you have different lifestyles. You respect the person. For you have to see good things about people, right? And you have to be polite, and you have to be cordial. Sometimes it's not so easy, They get what do you do if if a sibling wants to marry out of the religion and they invite you to the wedding? It's not such an easy thing to do. What do you say? Your mother says, but you gotta come. And you say, I'm sorry, I don't want to be there. So I don't know what to do. Every case has to be judged by itself. Sometimes you do have to be there, and sometimes you don't. Each case is an individual thing and requires consultation with a Rav. But in general, the way that you should treat your siblings is with respect and with love and care. And generally, you will also have a very positive effect on them just by doing that. You know?
All right, thank you very, very much, Rebbe.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just we're running out of time. Just maybe just one more question. I know there's still questions that we're probably not going to get to. I apologize, but I think you're Rachmiel Weiss, if he's still there. Rachmiel?
Yeah, I'm here.
No.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay, thank you so much. Thank you. A lot of encouragement to Rebbe and to all of the Derek Rebbeim. And I feel like it's because of Derek that, Derek led me in the way that I am now. I'm going to be a pre-1A Rebbe. And,
Wow. So
and
nice.
I'm teaching Aleph Beis and the Kudais and other inyanim. I asked my class the other day about we're trying to get them to ask the boys, how are you? It's good. I'm trying to get them to learn, Baruch, to be familiar with Baruch Hashem. So I said, like, who knows what it means? One boy raised his hand. No one really raised his hand. One boy raised his hand. He said, it means something bad was supposed to happen, and it didn't. So I wanted to know. I had to process that. I moved on to the next thing. I said, it was a good try. It makes sense why he hears it that way. I want to know how Rebbe would explain it.
I would say in English we translate it as "thank God."
Thank Hashem that everything is good.
Yeah, when you say Baruch Hashem, someone asks you how you are, you say Baruch Hashem, I'm fine. Baruch Hashem is not an answer. If you ask someone, or someone asks you, how are you doing, and you say Baruch Hashem, you didn't answer the question. We know Baruch Hashem. The question is, how are you doing? You can say Baruch Hashem, I'm doing terrible. Baruch Hashem, I'm doing great. So Baruch Hashem is thank God for something. So when we say Baruch Hashem, that we mean that we are thanking Hashem that things worked out the way that they did. Usually you don't say Baruch Hashem even though you should when things are bad. You know, Baruch Hashem, my car was stolen. You know.
Okay, big Yashikayach, and thank you, Rabbi Altman, and thank you, and I really appreciate everything that he does, and I gained so much from being in your shir and from our Chavrusa Shaft. We learned Rambam together, really so much.
Right.
I don't think I would be who I am without Rabbi. Thank you so much for everything.
Yeah, that's good. Siyata Dishmaya. That's what we have to daven for. And all the things that you have to daven for with your children is Siyata Dishmaya. They should have help from heaven. Hashem does it. You do your hishtadlus, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do all the rest.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I want to say thank you so much to the Rosh Yeshiva for the time and everyone for showing up. We appreciate it so much. I apologize. I know there's some more questions, but I think we're getting to an hour and a half now. And
Yeah, so I just wanted everybody to know that I have an email, and if you have any questions specific questions that you didn't want to say in public, or if it's done anytime, you can send me an email. I do answer my emails when I read them. Generally, I read them every, when I have a bris of a great grandson, I don't always get to see them. But otherwise, I generally will answer it, and I like to keep in touch. I like to hear how you're doing, when you have children and things like that. I love to get pictures and keep in touch. So my email is Moshe Lazerus, Lazerus @gmail.com. And my phone number, if you're calling from the States, is 972-8974-1300. What did I say? 130. Oh, I got confused. My number is 974-1304, something like that. Okay, forget it. Call my cell phone. How come I don't know my number? That's what happens when you get old. See, I really am getting old. 9728, because I live in that area, 974-1301. That's what it is, 1301. And my cell number is 053-313-2994. I don't have my old Talk and Save phone, and I also don't have SMS with this. This is a kosher phone, and but if she can't get through at home, so then you could try me there. I'd be very happy to speak with you. If you could send me an email if you feel you have an issue that you want to discuss, and it will take time. So send me an email and we can set up an appointment that's what I've been doing with guys. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
For all bearing with, and I hope it was okay. I hope the shit was okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Wow. It's always a good time.